Hi, Clutter Fairy fans. This is the Clutter Fairy Weekly for September 6th, 2022. I'm your co-host, Ed Gumnick, and I'm speaking with Gayle Goddard, certified professional organizer and owner of the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas.
Hi, everybody. The Clutter Fairy Weekly is the webcast and podcast that digs deep into the clutter that piles up between you and the life you want to be living. We explore the habits and behaviors that lead to clutter, and we suggest strategies to slow the accumulation, reduce the collection, and comfortably manage the stuff we decide to keep.
If you're new to our Zoom meeting, we want to let you know that you can share your comments and questions via the chat, and I'll try to make sure Gayle addresses them before we move on to another topic. You can also use the raise hand feature to let us know that you'd like to ask a question or make a comment yourself via audio or video. We're also streaming the webcast live on Facebook, so you can share your questions and comments there, and I'll relay them to Gayle. We'll start, as we usually do, by recapping last week's Tittle, which was called Big Buckets and Low-Hanging Fruit. The assignment was to make headway in cleaning up email clutter. We would love to hear from our participants in Zoom and on Facebook who made progress in the email inbox this week. Please let us know in the comments. YouTube viewer Len shared this comment. I just deleted almost all emails from school year 2020 to 21 and previous with the date filter. I'm a teacher. I also filtered with the word COVID and gladly removed them all except the last message. It felt wonderful.
Yay! Congrats to Lynn for making use of the Tittle suggestions about bulk filtering and deleting. It's always feels great to mass delete emails. I love highlighting a whole bunch of them and hitting the button and making them all go away. A teacher's email in particular is so time-stamped, it's really tied to the school year. And so what happened this school year isn't going to apply to the next school year. And so those messages really become stale as soon as the school year turns over. And so great job on getting ready for the new year by electronically killing last school year. And it's good to do that. And just like you do your own classroom, you turn over your classroom and get it ready. You might as well turn over the email in the same way and get it ready. Good job. I get a big kick out of deleting chunks of emails at once. So join the party.
Yeah, well, and my sister is a teacher as well. And so, you know, I know from listening to her talk about it that last year's emails are water under the bridge unless you're unless you're saving something for litigation you have planned. They're mostly, you've probably either resolved them or it's too late to do
or there's nothing you can do. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that kid that acted up in class last year, you can't really fix it now. It's old news.
Right. Kara shared, I got down from 3,000 plus emails to less than 100. Yay.
Wow, that is great. Good job.
And Diane said, I wanted to do the Tittle, but we had a painting project this weekend.
All right. Painting is okay. Painting is good. You know, painting is one of those jobs that it creates destruction and then you get the painting finished and then you put it all back together and it looks fabulous. So we know you're in destruction mode and you don't want to sit in that one. So good.
Susan said, I was behind in work email distribution lists and took advantage of plane rides to get caught up.
Oh, good. That's a good one. That's a good use of the time if you can download it all and then sit there and filter through it. That's sort of designed to make me go to sleep on a plane. If I had to sit and read emails on an airplane, I would be like falling asleep really quickly. So good for you. You can stay awake for it.
Dawn shared, I started deleting emails and actually discovered more about how my email accounts, all Yahoo, work. I didn't do as much as I wanted to because my husband needed me to take care of some visible clutter, but I'm committed to continuing the work on this project.
Good job. That's very good. And if the process helps you understand your email server a little better, good for you.
Barbara said, I got down to under 100 from over 300. Still have to download some photos and then I'll be under 25.
Yay, though, that's good. We all aspire to, I mean, 300 would be an admirable goal for me. I would love to get to 300. I'm impressed that you got to 100. So good job.
Catherine said, I'd like to brag that my inboxes are always empty. If I could say the same about my subfolders. I think I have 40 subfolders in my personal email and 8 in my business box.
So you're shunting them off with rules probably and things like that and putting everything into subfolders.
Joyce said, I didn't exactly follow the tittle. Nothing new there. One of my BFFs and I spent Labor Day afternoon shredding documents, or in my case, getting back to scanning and shredding, including sentimental papers. We celebrated with pizza and cheesecake.
Pizza and cheesecake is an admirable reward for doing a bunch of shredding. So good job for you. Yay. I like that process. That's, shredding equals pizza. I can go for that.
Definitely. You can incentivize me with pizza or cheesecake anytime.
Anytime, right?
Okay, let's
It's
get
true.
on to our main topic because we have a lot to talk about.
Okay.
Decluttering can feel like working your way through the maze of your relationship with stuff. Wouldn't it be easier with a map? This is the first episode of a 5-part series that will guide you through drawing that map, your personal philosophy of decluttering, by examining your relationship with stuff in terms of values, priorities, positive and negative emotions, habits, behaviors, ethical and social questions, and practical approaches to change.
When we talked about this topic a couple of years ago, we started off with this quotation from the Happy Philosopher blog. And the Happy Philosopher blog said, all diets fail unless we change our fundamental relationship with food. All exercise regimens fail unless we change our fundamental relationship with movement and activity. Decluttering will fail too unless we change our relationship with stuff. Today, we're going to talk about the key factors that contribute to your relationship with stuff, or we're going to suggest that you think about talking about them, elements that we encourage you to consider as you work towards establishing or clarifying your personal philosophy of decluttering. So let's start off by saying that we're not suggesting that you rethink your life from the ground up. A key element of the Clutter Fairy approach to organizing is the idea that the clutter in your life doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. You aren't wrong. You just have some stuff that doesn't help you live the life you want to be living. In fact, we want you to avoid the word wrong as much as we possibly can. Our focus isn't on right or wrong. It's about what works for you and what doesn't work for you, what supports your life and what doesn't support your life. I want to share a response to our survey question about how your current organizing philosophy supports the life that you want. Leela gave this answer. My desire for relationships over materialism supports me by keeping my house easy to maintain and use. It helps me decide what's really necessary or special to me and what is cluttering my house for no important purpose, no matter who the object came from or how much money I wasted on it. Leela has obviously already spent some time reflecting on what she wants in her life and how to make her home support her vision of what she wants in her life. All of us can benefit from taking time for self-reflection on the kind of life that we want to have. We want you to feel a sense of clarity as you clear your clutter, or motivation. We think that your decluttering process should be guided by your own definition of joy and your own definition of a good life. That way you're making the choices that reflect what's most important to you. We've talked before about the idea of editing the story that you tell about yourself in order to work towards a different version of the story. We're suggesting a similar activity here. We want to encourage you to spend some time reflecting and then write down or sketch or collage or express in any way that makes sense to you a story or a picture of the life that you want to be living. One listener suggested this might be your own personal manifesto, one aspect of expressing this is who I am and this is what I want. So what are some of the components to reflect on? You might start with these. Your values is a really important one. The things that you consider important, which include your roles, like your career is a role, your place in the family is a role, your relationship role, your goals and priorities, what you'd like to accomplish, or your principles. What are your religious, spiritual, or ethical beliefs? Your gifts and talents, those things that you do with the most skill and the most joy in the doing, and your tastes and preferences, the things that you find the most appealing, that resonate the most with you, that are the most reflective of who you are.
Let's talk for a minute about survey responses. We asked a question about the stuff spectrum, where people rank themselves on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 equals I could get rid of all this stuff without losing anything essential to my life, and 10 was it would be very difficult for me to part with any of my stuff. Interesting results there. Most people were clustered in the middle of the spectrum from a 3 to an 8. Practically all of our respondents were in that area. When I went through and looked at the specific responses from the people who answered at the bottom of the spectrum, at the top of the spectrum, they all tended to be minimalist people. Some of them were minimalists who are working toward the goal of having very little, and some were people who have really pretty much gotten themselves there. And so they count themselves as a 10, meaning I only have what I need. So
yeah, their collection is already very small and filtered.
We asked the question, which of the following personal values influences choices you make about what to keep and how to arrange your home? And we got interesting results there. The number 1 answer was purpose. And I think maybe the question should have been a little more explicit, because I'm not sure whether people interpreted that as meaning their own sense of purpose or that the object has a purpose. We were talking values, so we meant, your own sense of purpose, but I'm not sure that was clear. The next most popular answers were family history and heritage, and family itself, followed by creativity, health, security, and nostalgia. So kind of what we would expect for the most part.
A lot around sentimentality and reminders of your extended family and sort of family history, it sounds like.
Yeah, but peace, beauty, and learning all ranked very high too. So I think that these will produce some interesting results as we work over the coming weeks to talk about a personal philosophy, what things we want to honor with the choices we make in our decluttering and organizing. Okay, let's go back to.
Okay, so we have we made some component suggestions for you, and thinking about reflecting on your values, reflecting on your gifts and talents, and your tastes and preferences. And the idea is to sit for a few minutes and think about these concepts. Where do you find the most joy or get the most rewarding experience? What's happening in your life now that reflects joy to you? And then jot down whatever rises to the top of your mind to see what is the most important things to you. As you reflect, think about your answers to questions like the ones we ask in this week's survey. What does a good life mean to you?
Let me share a couple of responses there, because there were some really good ones, particularly to that question. So I'm going to share 3. Nancy said, uncluttered rooms, new living room furniture and new dining room chairs, new kitchen table and chairs, peaceful home environment, stocked pantry, and loved ones around the table sharing meals together.
Oh, isn't that lovely? That's a good visual.
And
that's a good goal to aim for.
Yeah, and most people, their good life included, a mixture of, values and a lot of people mentioned things they didn't need. So for example, Lynette said, a good life values quality relationships over things. I don't need designer clothes or decor. My furniture is from thrift stores and gently loved. I want friends and family to feel at home and comfortable when they come to my house. Right.
So that you can have friends and family come into your house is the underlying goal there too. Like that's a reflection to me of that you want rich and active relationships in your life. And that's what's more important. That's awesome.
And I'm going to share one more from Paula. This one is a really nice summary too. A home that has just enough to have friends and family over without stress. that allows for efficiency in cleaning and repair, that I feel peaceful and content in, creative in, and that never becomes so overwhelming that I procrastinate on the process of removing objects that no longer serve my current life.
Great. I love that. That's a great summary. That is really a well-rounded and well thought out. This is what I want my good life to look like. How awesome. Okay. So that's the first question. We also asked these other questions. What's the first thing you would like to add to your life right now? So what do you consider that's missing that you would like to add? And what's the first thing you would stop doing if you could? What things are you doing that aren't making you feel like you're having a good life, that aren't feeling good to you right now? What makes you feel fulfilled? What do you care about? And why do you care about it? And then the Marie Kondo version, what brings you joy, right? These are all questions that we asked in the survey for you to reflect on about what makes your life meaningful and good to you. The question of what sparks joy for you is the basis for the popular KonMari method of decluttering. And we covered that several weeks ago in our Marie Kondo series. And she sets one fairly clear standard. Does this thing that you're holding in your hand bring you joy? Your own standard for what belongs in your life may include things that bring you joy, or things that serve a clear and important function, or things that provide simple satisfaction, or any other requirement that you've set. Here are a few more questions you might try to answer as you define your relationship with stuff. What brings you satisfaction when you experience or do it? What gives you a sense of purpose? What's your definition of comfort? What helps you feel taken care of and at ease? What do you find beautiful? Or what do you find inspiring? What do you consider a good use of your time? That's a good one for people to think about. What is a good use of your time? What are you spending your time on right now that really feels like a waste? How would you like to make a difference in the world? This is how I do it. For me, being able to do my job all week is what gives me purpose and makes me feel like I'm making a difference in the world, so that everything in my house needs to support my ability to do this work and keep this business going. And that's how I can make a difference. And I know that you have a way, a path, a version of how you want to make a difference in the world too. And knowing what that is will help you edit your stuff. I want to encourage you to reflect on these questions, because your answers underlie the choices you make as you design and create your environment and fill it with things. The process of self-reflection we're suggesting can help you clear mental clutter that's interfering with your ability to clear physical clutter. Are there rules, principles, or attitudes that you've been following that aren't working for you? Here are some examples of attitudes or beliefs that you might find are influencing you. Number one on the hit list, other people's opinions or desires or expectations of you, especially of those that are closest to you. Your role in the family, both your immediate family and your extended family. Peer pressure and the need to fit in or to feel normal. In other words, the expectation that everyone will have and watch a television is an example. I find this need to fit in makes us act differently than we feel, even at home. And it also shows up as a reason to prevent others from coming to our home. If this friend of mine sees my place, they'll have huge judgments about me and stop being my friend. So that idea that you need to fit in or feel normal sometimes prevents you from letting people come over. And that's how it impacts you. Traditions, habits of thought and behavior that we've inherited from our family and our culture without giving them any critical thought. An example comes to mind of your mom's version of how to serve Thanksgiving dinner and how it's prepared. And that version is different than your way, and both are equally valid. So when you go to prepare Thanksgiving dinner, maybe you don't have 47 platters of food, or maybe you don't serve it in the most formal way, or maybe you take it up a notch from what she was doing. And so you can define what kind of stuff needs to support you You can have that tradition and have your own version of it, is what I'm saying. And then the things can support your version of Thanksgiving dinner instead of your historical mom's version of it. Consumer culture affects us as well. The things that someone else is eager to sell us. And so having that influence may be affecting what's in your house or what you're deciding to keep or not. And you may not want to be affected by that. An example of a limiting belief many of us carry around is the notion that you have to keep anything that's given to you as a gift. But when you're thinking about a gift, it's fair to ask, do you like it? Did you want it? And did you ask for it? More importantly, are you under any obligation to keep it? And we would say no. And we've said no all along. Your obligation is to accept it graciously and to make sure that the giver knows how much you appreciate the care and time and expense that went into the gift. But that's the end of your obligation. And now you're free to give it away or sell it or throw it away, whatever you like. I know a lot of people get distressed about the idea of throwing away a gift or giving away a gift. But ultimately, it's something that you received and you've taken control of. And now you get to decide whether it supports the life that you want to live in your house or not.
The one exception that we've talked about to that in the past is, sometimes you get a gift from someone who has an expectation and of seeing it when they come to your home, and it's someone who visits your home frequently. And if you feel strongly enough about that, satisfying that person's expectation, then you can choose to have that thing out and visible all the time, or when they're coming.
Right. Yeah. And there is a delicate balance. We're talking about like, it's your mother or your mother-in-law or your sister, and maybe they focus a lot on whether or not you are showing and displaying the gifts that they've given you or making use of them. And if they take great offense, and this person's going to be in your life for the rest of your life, like you don't want to actively antagonize someone. And so you may have to make some exceptions around that. Yes, you're correct.
But as few of those as you can get away with.
As few of those you can get away with. And, maybe it's like when the new one comes, you get to retire an old one because this person is probably giving you gifts often. And so when a new thing shows up, you pay attention to the new thing. And that means that something older can sort of fade away and be taken away if it's not something you like. If you only take away one thing from today's discussion, let it be this. Living the life you love is about living in a way that's true to your values and your principles and your beliefs, your aesthetics, your goal, and the things that you love. There's been a lot of talk in recent years about authenticity, and the notion of authenticity is at the heart of what we're talking about today. Your stuff should be authentically yours, by which we mean it should be a genuine expression of who you are and what you love, what you value, and what you want to be, have, or do. To live authentically requires a lot of self-awareness, and an effective process of decluttering means taking a look at your life and your stuff to make sure that what you have is in line with who you are and what you value.
Okay. Kat suggested a good strategy about gifts that you want to set yourself free from. Kat said there's rarely a situation that comes up where it's almost unavoidable. And in that case, I always ask the gifter permission to sell it, or regardless of time lapse.
Okay.
Or permission to give it away, or, there may be something to be gained, even in the case where you feel some pressure to keep a gift.
Right.
To keep it for a little while and then say to the person who gave it to you, I really appreciate this, but I'm changing my decor, or I'm simplifying this room where I've kept this. And so I, would like your permission to give this away to someone else who could use it.
Right. That might be a gentle approach to use with somebody who is more attached to seeing the things that they've given you on display in the house. And, maybe they take it back. And if they do, then you have to know that, that's unique to them. that they want to have the thing back again. And I've heard of people doing that. It's like, well, if you're going to give it away, I'm just going to take it back. Okay, then let them have it. They can live with it in your house, in their house instead of in your house.
We actually had an answer to the last week's Tittle that came in after I'd finished wrapped up that topic. Christina, who's with us on Facebook, said, I deleted over 500 emails from several retailers. I searched the retailer and deleted emails back several years. I also unsubscribed from a few.
Woo, good job. Yeah, sales emails are prolific, and they breed without you thinking about them. And some of those retailers send an email every day, and it's crazy making to me, but they do it. And so if you can unsubscribe from the biggest abusers of that, then you're giving them some valuable feedback about, yeah, y'all are driving me nuts, and stop it. And you're creating a whole lot less going on in your email, and that's a good thing.
Michelle said, I have vacation souvenirs from my niece and my sister and feel guilty about giving them away. It's a dilemma.
It is a dilemma. So two things. I would have a conversation with them about when they go on trips. You don't need an object to show for their trip. Like, you don't need to experience their trip through their tchotchke that they brought home. You can suggest to them, I would rather have postcards that are pretty pictures of some of the things that you saw, or, a picture book that has some of the stuff that you saw, and not an object. And I would, have a conversation with them about why that's super important, why they feel like they need to give you something or send you something, and find out, maybe they feel obligated to do it, and you can talk them out of it.
Yeah.
They don't have to be obligated. It's okay. Or they can substitute something that's easier for you to manage. Like, don't bring me home something 3D. You don't have to buy me a souvenir. I'm past the age of souvenirs. I'm just happy to listen to your stories, to see your pictures, to see the postcards of the beautiful things that you saw. And if you end up with 10 postcards instead of some little object to stand on the counter somewhere, you're ahead of the game. So, and the postcards are less expensive. So you can also appeal to them about the money. Like, don't spend a bunch of your vacation money on bringing things home to me. Spend $3 on picture postcards, and that'll be perfectly happy. And you can show me what you did in your phone. As far as the things that you've already got, if they've done it a lot and they've sent you a whole bunch of them, and you can start with thinning the herd, right? You can just pull all the souvenirs up and pull some of your favorites and let the rest go that way. And then you have a representative sample that we use that marker all the time, the representative sample of souvenirs, and you can make a little display out of it or whatever. So you feel like you're honoring the gifts that they've given you, but you can filter them like we were filtering the email by date too. Like, here's the oldest ones, and the oldest ones now are old news, and you've got new ones. And so you can keep the fresher ones and let the older ones go. There's all kinds of ways to filter that out so that it's not as big of a burden on you. And, you didn't go on the trip. So I don't think right. Like, it doesn't, I appreciate that they're trying to share their experience with you and reflect your family relationship with them. And you can just express, I don't need the things, show me the pictures, tell me the stories. And that's enough for me to share in your, vision.
Well, and depending on the age of the person, you might be able to say, instead of getting me anything, what I'd really like is, let's get together when you're back from the trip and you take me out for coffee and tell me all about your trip.
Yeah.
Something,
that's a great idea.
An experience you can share together that doesn't produce clutter or waste for anyone.
And it gives you an excuse to see each other.
Yeah. Paula said, I've gotten more ruthless with offloading unwanted gifts. If I don't want it, it goes, period. I've made it clear to friends and family that I don't want knickknacks and stuff. So therefore, don't ask permission from the giver. Yeah, I'm mean.
That's okay. You can feel, it's like, Clutter Fairy philosophy. A gift is yours. Once you accept it, it's yours. and you get to decide what you want to do.
And I don't think it's at all mean to try to preempt people spending money on you, putting forth effort on you, stashing something in their closet, waiting for Christmas for you. If you don't really, you already get everything you need on your own, people talk about what gift to give to the person who has everything. Well, and, for many of our audience are people who live in affluent countries, and many of our audience are people who themselves are successful enough to be able to buy what they need when they need it, or buy what they want when they want it. And so you're really doing a service to people in your life to say, don't get me gifts. Please don't get me gifts. I'd like to see you around my birthday or see you at Christmas.
Talk to you. Yeah.
And that's enough. I don't need anything. And I want to save
Take
you
me
the
to
trouble
dinner
of,
instead.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm probably, trying to rationalize that Paula is not mean, because if Paula is mean, then I'm also mean, because I kind of do the same thing.
We all have our definitions, right? And this is just one of the areas where we have to get comfortable around what is important to us.
John shared, when I was in my 30s or 40s, a friend I grew up with gave me a pair of pajamas that I took back to the store because they looked like they were for a 12-year-old. When I took it back to the store, the clerk asked me why I was returning it. I looked at her and said, "Would you wear this?"
Would you put these pajamas on? Good for you. I'm glad that you made that happen.
And Ginger said, I deleted 3/4 of the saved email in one account and deleted 8 of the 27 folders there. Added a task to a regular return. If your email is out of control now or out of control chronically, you should be working on both the backlog and the habit. Make sure it's on your to-do list to return to that on a basis that's frequent enough that you will continue to make progress.
And she can stay ahead of it too.
Kat added, it is way better to say, don't get me X, than OMG, I hate X, take it back.
True that. It's so true. And I know that there are people for whom their love language is giving gifts. And so it's super important to them to show how much they care about you by giving you a gift. And so if that's true, if you have somebody in your life that they just take great joy in finding gifts and giving gifts, and it's a big, important thing to them, we don't want to diminish their experience or their offerings, but you can talk to those people about what kinds of things you would like, give them parameters to shop within, and let it be a marriage of what they're willing to do and what they want to do and what you're willing to have. And you guys sort of negotiate it out that way, because we don't want to make someone feel like their love language is inappropriate or bad or wrong, but that person is creating clutter in other people's lives if they're not careful. And so it's important to communicate with somebody like that takes such great joy in finding the exact right thing, in remembering, in gifting at certain points that are triggered by, here's your birthday, here's your anniversary, here's the anniversary of the death of your mother, here's the, there's all kinds of things that trigger somebody to want to give you a gift. And if that person in your life is expressing love to you by gifting things to you, then it's just super important to have that conversation with them about what would really be the most valuable and special to you, and figure it out between you, and let them shop within those parameters.
Okay, I want to take a moment for a special announcement, which is to say, we want to say a special thank you to Leslie for becoming our newest Patreon supporter.
Yay, Leslie.
If you would like to help support our efforts with a recurring monthly donation of any size, please visit cfhou.com/Patreon. It's a shame that the person who was harassing us in the chat seems to have left before we mentioned that he or she could support us in Patreon. Your contributions help us offset the costs of producing the weekly webcast and will help us fund new projects that we have in the works. Thank you for your support, Leslie, and all our generous underwriters.
We appreciate you so much. It just makes it so much easier for us. Thank you.
Next week, we're going to talk about emotions, the ones that come into play as we acquire stuff, the ones that influence our tendency to keep too much, and the ones that we might cultivate and leverage to help us let go to reduce our clutter. Join us next Tuesday, September 13th, 2022 at noon US Central Time for Holding On Tightly or Letting Go Lightly, Clutter and Emotions.
Clutter and emotions. We are going to examine what triggers you, what supports you, and look at all the ways that your emotions are part of your decluttering process. And so we'll hope to see you next week for that.
Okay, tell me about the Tittle.
It's Tittle time. Okay, so this week's Tittle is called Your Home Manifesto. This week's assignment is to write a personal manifesto for your home, a sentence or a brief paragraph that expresses, this is how I want my home to support my life. So we want you to write down a list of key values, goals, roles that you play, priorities to your life, your talents, your tastes, and so on. Those things that are at the heart of who you are. And write one or more statements to reflect how your home might support those values and goals, et cetera, from your list. So if you write down this list of things that are about you, and then write down statements about how your home can reflect those things. For example, my home contains a clean, organized, and well-stocked kitchen to support my role as the chef and planner of meals. Or my home is serene and restful so that I can enjoy weekends and evenings away from my full-time job. Those are just examples of what we're trying to get you to focus on here. And we're hoping this exercise will help you realize what motivates you, what's truly important to you, and what is worth sharing space in your home. Because ultimately that will allow you to filter the objects in your house against this list or these goals or these statements. We hope that you can get some insight through that and then come back next week and let us know how it went.
If you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love for you to join us live. To get notifications about upcoming events, we invite you to join the meetup group by visiting cfhou.com/meetup. You can also follow us on Facebook by visiting cfhou.com/Facebook, or subscribe to our mailing list by visiting cfhou.com/subscribe. We love to hear from you, so please keep those questions, comments, and topic suggestions coming on YouTube, Facebook, or anywhere that you find us. You can always reach us through our website at clutterfairyhouston.com.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.